In a bustling town, there lived a hard-working merchant who made a living selling salt. He devoted himself to supporting his wife and two sons. The younger son was lively, quick-witted, and socially fluent, while the elder was his complete opposite: quiet, timid, and constantly avoiding eye contact with others. Due to his introverted nature, the elder son was often misunderstood as unintelligent. Though kind-hearted and diligent, he was frequently taken advantage of or unfairly looked down upon. He never resisted or complained, only endured in silence. The father, shaped by years of tough trade, gradually lost patience with his eldest. He saw the boy's reserved demeanor as weakness, even as uselessness. Every minor mistake triggered harsh scoldings, pushing the young man further into his shell. As time passed, deep-seated insecurity took root. Fear of failure haunted him, especially during exams, where anxiety erased what he had studied. No matter how hard he tried, the outcome always disappointed his father. When he reached adulthood, his father asked him to help at the family shop. Hoping to prove himself, he agreed. But constant nervousness led to frequent errors, frustrating his father even more. One day, while his father was away, a group of deceitful men came to the shop, claiming they had been sent to collect all the salt. Lacking the courage to question them, the young man hesitated, and they took everything. When the father returned to find the store empty, rage consumed him. He drove his son away with furious words, blaming him for the devastating loss. Crushed by his father's rejection and humiliated by the town's whispers, the young man sank into despair. Years of emotional wounds, shame, and failure convinced him that he was worthless. With a broken spirit, he wandered to the riverbank, prepared to end his life in silence. At that very moment, a young disciple of a wandering sage happened to pass by. Seeing the sorrow in the boy's eyes, he immediately intervened, pulling him away from the edge and sitting beside him. Listening carefully to the young man's story, his lifelong timidity, lack of confidence, academic failure, and his father's rejection, the disciple didn't offer pity. Instead, he offered a new path, a chance to meet his teacher, a wise saint who lived in a secluded forest ashram. Though hesitant, the young man, driven by despair and a faint hope for change, agreed. Together, they traveled to the ashram, where the saint sat in quiet meditation beneath an ancient tree. Upon arrival, the young man's emotions overflowed. He collapsed in tears, ready to share everything in hopes of finding one last chance to change his fate. After listening intently to the entire story, the saint did not offer advice immediately. Instead, he gave the young man 3 tasks, promising that if he completed them, his life would transform forever. On the first day, he was told to speak to 10 strangers and ask them about their lives. For someone so painfully shy, this was a daunting mission. Many ignored him or responded rudely, but he persevered. Step by step, he pushed through the fear. By the end of the day, he had spoken to all 10, and even made a few unexpected connections. On the second day, the saint asked him to teach 10 children about the importance of water. Despite his lack of education and fear of public speaking, he tried. His first lesson was shaky and brief, but he returned for a second round with more confidence. By the end, he was amazed to discover that he could, in fact, communicate and teach. On the third and final day, he faced the most difficult challenge of all, returning home to ask for his father's forgiveness. The fear and shame resurfaced, but remembering his promise, he gathered his courage. Humbly, he apologized to his father and vowed to prove his worth. To his surprise, his father accepted and gave him another chance. After completing the 3 tasks, the young man returned to the saint, eager to receive the long-promised secret to success. But instead of offering mystical words, the saint simply smiled and told him that the answer had already revealed itself through his own actions. Reflecting on his journey, the young man understood. The fear and self-doubt that had once imprisoned him did not come from others. They were creations of his own mind. Through these challenges, he had faced rejection, spoken despite fear, taught despite uncertainty, and most importantly, learned to stand tall despite the urge to shrink. Change hadn't come in a flash, but through small, deliberate steps. What set him on a new path wasn't superior knowledge or talent. It was the willingness to act, even when afraid. Years later, the once shy boy became a respected merchant, not because he was the smartest or boldest, but because he had learned to trust himself, to persist, and to lead with quiet strength. The story ends with a timeless truth. Confidence isn't something we're born with. It is something we build, day by choosing courage over fear.